As I'm sure you've heard, there have been a lot of conflicting reports lately about the coronavirus vaccine. So for my talk, I decided to go over how vaccine development works and what it means for you and all of us in the age of coronavirus. So I just wanted to take you through the timeline of vaccine development. First comes the preclinical research exploratory stage, which takes 2 to 4 years. Then the preclinical stage and an FDA IND application. Those take 1 to 2 years. A phase 1 clinical study normally takes 1 to 2 years. Phase 2 normally takes 2 or more years. Phase 3 normally takes 3 to 4 years. Applying for a biologics license for the vaccine normally takes a year, and that's through the FDA. Production and distribution of the vaccine then takes 5 to 6 years. So that brings the typical vaccine development pipeline to 15 to 21 years. So now transitioning to COVID-19, and after going through all those phases of vaccine development, it's pretty evident that producing a COVID-19 vaccine in 12 to 18 months is going to require a massive effort. But it is what Dr. Fauci has predicted. So is 12 to 18 months too optimistic? And the answer is possibly. We've never made a human coronavirus vaccine before, and the record time for us producing any vaccine is 4 years. Furthermore, less than 10% of vaccine candidates actually make it from phase 1 to final approval. Fast-tracking vaccine development is pretty dangerous because a top priority of vaccine development, and the reason it takes so long, is because safety is top priority. We could get there. We need to shorten and stagger the phases, and we need to combine the phases with each other. So first, we need to shorten exploratory preclinical research, and we want to rely on our knowledge from SARS and MERS, which are 2 coronaviruses that are very similar to SARS-CoV-2, and that appeared in the early 2000s. That would cut 2.5 years off of our vaccine development. Then, we need academic research to be done in parallel to the rest of the vaccine development. That could cut 2 years off our timeline. Next, we could travel at pandemic speed through the vaccine process, and that's a term that was coined by the National Academy of the Sciences just last week, actually. Pandemic speed means starting subsequent steps in vaccine development before previous phases are complete. That would cut 2 years off of the vaccine development. We need to begin phase 3 at the beginning of phase 2. That'll help us cut 1 year off the vaccine development. And we need emergency provisioning for the vaccine when we ultimately get it, so that we can vaccinate frontline workers first before the FDA takes a year to approve the vaccine. That could cut a year to a year and a half off our time. So next, we need to invest in quick production. Currently, factories for producing vaccines need to follow really strict guidelines, and they can take 5 or more years to build. We need to repurpose our current vaccine factories for the COVID vaccine, and we need to do that even before vaccines are approved. That could actually save us 6.5 years in production time. Also, another way that we could cut down on production time, mRNA and DNA vaccines, which are vaccines that contain instructions for our cells on how to produce antibodies instead of the antibodies themselves, are simpler to produce. And that could help us cut 1.5 years off of production time. So that brings us to the final question. How is this pandemic going to end? I would say probably not with a vaccine, because there are too many moving parts and too much luck involved with getting a vaccine to market and vaccinating everyone within 12 to 18 months. We need to get our economy open, and we need to go back to normal life as soon as possible. And frankly, rushing a vaccine to market is dangerous, it's unlikely, it's not practical right now, and vaccinating everyone is going to be a huge challenge, almost insurmountable, I'd say. It's important to note that big pharmaceutical companies like to drum up vaccine hype because vaccines are huge moneymakers. But I think that the reality is that antivirals and therapeutics are significantly more important in improving COVID-19 outcomes right now. We also need to focus more on testing, which we are, and building a robust contact tracing system, which right now the United States isn't doing. And I think that if we're going to open, we need a good therapeutic, and we're working on that. There are over 260 therapeutics in development right now. We need testing, and we need contact tracing. I think that's the way to open. And sadly, I don't think that the way to open is a vaccine.